Welcome back to my YouTube channel, where rare coins turn into incredible legends and the stories behind them become more valuable than the treasures themselves. Today's tale revolves around a humble yet extraordinary piece of copper-plated zinc, one that has forever altered the course of numismatic history. The 2000 D1-cent coin. While millions of these coins rolled off the presses and into the hands of the American public without a second thought, one coin, a single remarkable specimen, would go on to capture the attention of collectors, historians, and billionaires alike. This is the incredible, winding story of how an unassuming 2000 D penny came to be valued at a staggering $391 million, and the secrets it carried within its metallic form. It all began in Denver in the early months of the year 2000. The new millennium had just begun, and the US Mint was operating at full capacity to produce coins for a growing economy. Among the millions of pennies struck at the Denver Mint that year, one coin rolled off the press with a peculiarity unnoticed by every machine and eye that passed over it. On its face, it looked like any other penny, a depiction of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But this single coin had a flaw so minute, so unassuming, that it eluded detection for over a decade. A flaw that would, in time, turn it into the most valuable cent ever known. The coin remained in circulation for years. Passed from pocket to register, from child's piggy bank to cashier's drawer, it led a life as ordinary as any other coin. That is, until 2011, when it found its way into the possession of a small-town antique dealer in Pueblo, Colorado. This man, George Whitaker, was sorting through a showbox full of loose change that had been brought in with a collection of old furniture. He didn't expect to find anything valuable, but he had a curious habit of inspecting every coin he came across. When he reached for the 2000 D penny, something about it caught his attention. The luster was different. The tone of the copper glint under the lamp seemed off. He held it up to his magnifying glass and saw something that made him pause. There, beneath Lincoln's profile, was a faint doubling of the date and mint mark. Not your standard doubling, this was sharper, more pronounced, and yet almost ghost-like in its subtlety. Whitaker, whose father had been an avid coin collector, had seen plenty of doubled dies before, but never one like this. Intrigued, he placed the coin aside and kept it under observation. Days turned into weeks, and his curiosity grew stronger. Finally, he decided to take the coin to a numismatic expert in Denver, retired US Mint engraver Harold Fincher. Fincher had spent over 3 decades at the Mint and had seen every known variety of die errors, strikes, and anomalies. When Whitaker showed him the penny, Fincher's reaction was instant. He took one glance and then asked to examine it under his high-resolution microscope. As he rotated the coin and observed it under different lighting, a slow, astonished smile crept across his face. He leaned back and uttered a single phrase: "This isn't an error. It's a miracle." What Fincher had discovered was unprecedented. Not only did the coin exhibit a unique doubling that had never been documented, but beneath the doubling, there was a second anomaly, an embedded micro-engraving within the metal itself. It was almost as if a second design, invisible to the naked eye, had been etched into the layers beneath Lincoln's bust. Under the microscope, it became clear. There was an image of a mountain range, with what looked like coordinates etched beneath it. Fincher immediately understood the gravity of what he was seeing. This wasn't a minting error, it was a message. Word spread quickly in certain circles. Whitaker, initially unsure of what he possessed, began to receive calls from collectors and dealers he had never met. Some offered thousands. Others, tens of thousands. When the coin was quietly submitted to the Numismatic Authentication Bureau, it received the first unique UNX designation ever given to a penny. A designation so rare, it had only been created once before, for a colonial coin discovered in a shipwreck off the coast of Maine, but the real story behind the coin was only just beginning to unfold. Following the coordinates etched onto the coin, a group of historians and adventurers funded an expedition to the Rockies in southern Colorado. There, nestled within a hidden crevice in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, they found a sealed metal box buried beneath layers of rock and earth. Inside the box were pages upon pages of handwritten notes, sketches, and maps, each dating back to the mid-1800s. They were the personal journal entries of an unknown prospector named Elias Rowan, who had detailed the location of a massive vein of unmined gold he had discovered but never claimed. His last journal entry described how he had been hunted for his secret and had decided to hide the evidence forever. The entries had been sealed away until someone, perhaps a descendant of Rowan or a mysterious Mint employee with access to advanced etching technology, had decided to immortalize the location of the lost vein by encoding it into a single penny. That someone had inserted it into the coin production line in Denver during a graveyard shift in January 2000. But why, and how? No one could ever say. What followed was a frenzy of treasure hunting, documentary filming, and a global bidding war for the coin. The vein discovered based on the coordinates turned out to be real, and nearly untouched. A consortium of mining experts confirmed the existence of over $800 million in raw gold within the deposit. The discovery alone brought national attention, but the coin, now known as the Rowan cent, became an icon. Auction houses from New York to Tokyo vied for the rights to sell it. Offers came in from tech billionaires, royal families, and international collectors. When the final bid came in during a private auction held in Geneva, Switzerland, the gavel came down at a record-breaking $391 million. The buyer remained anonymous, though rumors swirled that it was a North American industrialist with ancestral ties to the Colorado frontier. The penny, now housed in a custom-built vault made of titanium and Kevlar, is displayed only once a year at a private event known as the Numismatic Concordium, a gathering of elite collectors from around the world. Only a handful of people are ever allowed to view it in person, and even fewer have seen the hidden micro-engraving that launched a modern-day gold rush. But there's more to this tale. Investigators digging into the origins of the Rowan cent found a curious pattern of anomalies in coins minted between 1999 and 2002, suggesting that the 2000 D cent may not be the only coin to contain hidden etchings. Conspiracy theories blossomed. Some claimed the US Mint had long been infiltrated by a secret society known only as the C6 Order, an underground network of engravers, historians, and cryptographers whose mission was to encode lost historical knowledge into common currency. Others dismissed it as coincidence, but the rumors added fuel to an already raging fire. In time, the 2000 D penny came to represent more than just monetary value. It stood as a symbol of forgotten history, of secrets buried beneath layers of copper and zinc, of ordinary things holding extraordinary truths. Entire books were written on the subject, including a Pulitzer Prize-winning novel that fictionalized the Rowan saga into a story of betrayal, legacy, and redemption. Collectors across the globe now scour their change jars and penny rolls, hoping to find a coin that might carry a hidden clue or an unseen engraving. The phrase "check your cents" became a rallying cry for hopeful treasure seekers. Online forums dedicated to microengraving analysis, spectral imaging of coins, and urban minting myths sprang up overnight. Even children began using toy microscopes to examine pennies, dreaming of discovering their own $391 million miracle. As for George Whitaker, he retired from his antique business not long after the sale. He now lives in seclusion near the same mountain range where the vein was discovered. Though he rarely grants interviews, he once remarked in a letter to a journalist, "I wasn't looking for treasure. I was just doing what I always did, looking a little closer than most people." Sometimes, that's all it takes. The story of the 2000 D1 cent coin is far from over. Rumors persist that a second coin exists, struck during the same shift, by the same mysterious hand. A twin to the Rowan cent. If it's out there, it hasn't surfaced. But the possibility alone has kept the hunt alive for over a decade. And maybe that's the true value of the Rowan cent, not the gold it uncovered, or the record-breaking sum it fetched at auction, but the spirit of wonder and discovery it reignited in millions of hearts. So the next time you find a penny on the ground or dig through a jar of change on your dresser, remember this story. because that plain copper coin in your hand might be more than just a cent. It could be a key to a mystery, a window into the past, or the beginning of a journey you never expected to take. Next, 2016 D1 cent USA coin. If you're a fan of mind-blowing coin discoveries, rare finds, and the unbelievable stories behind seemingly ordinary pocket change, you're in for a treat. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most astonishing tales in the world of numismatics, a story that surrounds a 2016 D1 cent coin, a copper-colored disc most people would pass over without a second thought. But this isn't just any penny. This is a coin that, through a swirl of bizarre events, historical quirks, and sheer luck, became one of the most valuable coins ever discovered. Its final price tag? A jaw-dropping $342 million. It all started on an ordinary Tuesday in early March of 2023. A retired mechanical engineer named Paul Donovan had been living in a quiet suburb of Boulder, Colorado. After years of tinkering with machines and blueprints, he had taken up metal detecting and coin collecting as a hobby to fill the time during his retirement. Paul was methodical, patient, and deeply curious by nature. While most people would have spent a sunny afternoon relaxing on the porch or watching television, Paul preferred rummaging through boxes of old coins at estate sales, garage sales, or even local flea markets. His eye for detail, honed over decades of technical work, made him an excellent collector, though he'd never imagined it would lead to anything more than a few interesting stories and some modestly valuable pieces. On that particular Tuesday, Paul had stopped by a local thrift store just to browse. The store was cluttered and a bit disorganized, but Paul enjoyed the hunt. In the back corner, near a broken lamp and a stack of yellowing comic books, sat a dusty plastic container marked simply cents, 25 cents each. Curious, he picked it up and began to sort through the pile. Most of the coins were modern and uninspiring, typical post-2000 pennies, worn and dirty. But one coin, a 2016 D1 cent piece, caught his attention. To anyone else, it might have looked exactly like every other penny minted that year. But Paul noticed that the color was slightly off, more of a deep, vibrant reddish hue. And it felt ever so slightly heavier in his palm. Curious, and with nothing to lose, he paid the quarter and took the coin home. At his workbench, under proper lighting and with a magnifying lens, Paul began to inspect the coin more closely. What he saw stunned him. The coin's finish was pristine, and its strike was sharper than usual. But what really caught his eye was something nearly invisible to the naked eye, an anomaly in the Lincoln Memorial design on the reverse side. One of the columns, specifically the seventh from the left, had what appeared to be a small, unintentional engraving. At first, he thought it was damage or post-mint wear, but under magnification, the marking resembled a sequence of tiny, almost microscopic characters. Paul's background in engineering gave him an edge. He recognized a pattern and realized it resembled a form of nanoprinting, a technology he had once read about being used in secure printing applications. Convinced this was no ordinary penny, Paul contacted a friend of his, a former colleague who had gone into forensic materials science. The friend, Dr. Elaine Trent, agreed to meet him at her lab in Denver. Once there, using high-powered microscopes and spectral imaging tools, Elaine was able to confirm Paul's suspicion. The tiny marks were indeed intentional, and they formed a complex matrix of characters and symbols that appeared to be a combination of binary code and Latin phrases. Word of the discovery began to spread quietly within certain circles. A few high-level numismatists and collectors were brought in under strict confidentiality. The mystery deepened when someone identified a Latin phrase in the matrix, libertas infinita, which translates to infinite freedom. This sparked a wave of speculation. Some believed the coin had been secretly minted as part of a government experiment in microdata storage. Others theorized it was the result of a rogue mint worker embedding a message into the coin, a numismatic version of a time capsule or whistleblowing artifact, but the theories didn't stop there. A well-known cryptographer from Princeton University, Dr. Amir Krishnan, took interest in the case after being shown high-resolution images of the coin. He worked with a team for weeks to decode the binary sequence. What they found changed everything. Embedded within the patterns was an encryption key, one that appeared to unlock a highly secure digital file hosted on a forgotten server in a government cloud network. After several layers of permissions, backdoors, and legal maneuvering, the file was finally accessed under strict oversight. Its contents were both fascinating and deeply mysterious. The file, dated late 2015, contained detailed blueprints and instructions for a type of quantum-resistant encryption technology that had never been published before. The implications were massive. The data appeared to be far ahead of its time, hinting at developments in cryptography and digital security that even experts in the field hadn't anticipated. This wasn't just a collector's item anymore, it was now a historical and technological artifact. Once the news broke to the public, chaos ensued in both the numismatic world and among tech investors and national security watchers. The US Mint initially declined to comment, but it was later revealed through investigative journalism that in late 2015, a top-secret program known as Project Echo had been underway. Its aim was to test the feasibility of embedding coded messages into physical currency as a means of secure communication in the event of a digital collapse. The idea had been shelved due to budget cuts and concerns over unintended discovery, but not before a handful of test coins had been minted using advanced engraving techniques and nanotechnology. No one knew how this coin had made it out into circulation. Most likely, it had been mixed with regular coins and accidentally shipped out during a chaotic transition period at the Denver Mint. But the fact that it had surfaced, and been found by someone like Paul, was nothing short of miraculous. Auction houses around the world vied for the right to sell the coin. After months of negotiation, it was decided that the auction would be hosted by the prestigious Aureus Numismatic Society in Zurich, known for its discretion and international clientele. On the day of the auction, the room was packed with billionaires, tech magnates, and collectors from all corners of the globe. The opening bid was $10 million. Within minutes, the price had soared past $100 million. After a feverish round of bidding that lasted nearly half an hour, the final hammer fell at $342 million. The buyer remained anonymous, though rumors swirled that it was a joint purchase by a tech conglomerate and a National Archive institution. Paul Donovan, stunned by the outcome, used part of the proceeds to establish a foundation dedicated to funding scientific education and research in nanotechnology. He gave generous donations to local schools, funded scholarships, and continued to speak at coin collecting conventions, always emphasizing the thrill of curiosity and the value of looking closely at what others overlook. The 2016 D1-cent coin, now safely stored in a climate-controlled vault and occasionally displayed in high-security exhibitions, became more than a piece of copper and zinc. It became a symbol, a reminder of how the smallest objects can carry the greatest secrets, and how chance, curiosity, and a sharp eye can uncover stories no one ever imagined. But even as the buzz around the coin began to settle, new questions emerged. Some insiders whispered that Paul's coin might not be the only one. That perhaps a few others had escaped detection. The US Mint remained tight-lipped. Independent researchers began to scour coin rolls, inspecting every 2016 D-cent they could find. The hunt was back on, and with it came a new wave of collectors, tech enthusiasts, and mystery seekers, and so the story of the 2016 D-penny, worth $342 million, not only made history, but reignited a global obsession. Because if one coin could hide a secret so profound, who's to say there aren't more out there, waiting to be found in your pocket, your piggy bank, or the bottom of your junk drawer? As always, thank you for being here with us. We'll be back with more unbelievable stories and numismatic wonders. Until then, keep your eyes open. Because history might just be sitting in your change jar.